happened? Well, let me back up. Would I have been within my right, socially, maybe not legally, but socially, would I have been within my right to give this dude a piece of my mind? Would I have been within my right? Yes. And what would that have done? It would have solidified everything that he thought about people who he thinks look like me. Sometimes, and I want to be real clear, I'm not asking you to do what I do. I'm not asking you to sacrifice what I sacrifice. I'm not asking you to take the kind of punishment that God designed me to take. All right? But what I am suggesting is oftentimes we have the need to be right so much that we miss the opportunity to do the right thing. Sometimes these negative sixes want some kind of excuse to get out of their flight pattern. And maybe we can do that. Maybe we can be that teachable moment for them. All right? Because they weren't born this way. It's something that they learned. I want to talk about the 13s, and then I want to get to those guys. The thing that I like about the 13s, we get along. Me and 13s, we get along. The 13s are the number of people who actually stood up and said something in the bakery. Right? What we found with the 13s is that they have courage. And what is courage? If I were king of the forest. Right? What's courage? Confidence. What else? What's that? Knowledge is courage. What's that? Bravery is knowledge. Is courage. All right? Willingness to do something even though you are afraid. What is at the core of courage? What must you first have before you can have courage? Fear. Before you can have courage, you must have fear. And it's so funny because I talk to kids about this, and they're like, courage is not having fear. No, that's being a maniac. If you're not afraid of something, you're crazy. Right? So to have courage, you must have fear first. And then you take that fear and with practice and with resources and with other folks, you take that fear and you move forward in spite of that fear. That's courage. I heard a quote the other day that I thought was really good, that anybody can box until you get hit. Right? So courage is taking bravery and practicing and gathering all your resources and doing it anyway. Any folks served in the armed services? You know about bravery, right? Doing things, having courage, doing things because you have the right training, you've practiced, and you have the right materials, and you do it anyway. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question because you said it's usually based in or you have to have fear. I guess I challenge that a little bit because I have spoken up, and I just do it. I don't think about it. I have a fear of speaking up when something's not right. So what is that? I don't think of myself as being courageous. It's just like.
When her question was, she's done things and not been fearful. When I talk about fear, and I don't have time to go, I don't have time to go into all of what fear is, but a part of fear is the respect to do it. So I'm not just talking about the terror of fear, but also the fear of being. That goes into some other places that I'm not willing to go right now. But that concept of fear has a double meaning. All right? And the 13s were connected. One of the things that I noticed was that there were either physical other people with them or they were emotionally tied to someone else. Right? They had some kind of connection. My best friend is, my son fought for, my so-and-so is. So the 13s know that they're connected. And they also look and find allies. They typically don't go off by themselves. And an ally is a friend that will have your back even in your absence. That's an ally, right? So let's keep moving. So let's talk about these 22. So I think it's really interesting what we do to martyrs. What we do to martyrs. We have martyrs in our society. And Dr. King is one of those martyrs. And people always go to, they talk about the Dr. King that was the loving lamb, right? And I imagine like in 100 years, there'll be like the third book of King, you know, in the Bible. He'll be canonized and, you know, also, and he's not even Catholic, you know. Can non-Catholics be saint? No? Okay. Yeah, well, hey, I was shooting for me, actually. No, but the 22 are fearful. And so where the 13 years fear, the 22 are stopped by it. But not for the reason that we typically think. And we'll explore that. The 22 are also what we end up calling the silent majority. I don't know if anybody is old, some of you are old enough to remember a president by the name of Richard Nixon. Okay? He's the president that looked like a potato. I'm not a crook. Right? So Richard Nixon coined this phrase called the silent majority. And the silent majority was those group of people who agree with what I agree with, but don't say anything about it. Right? And so their silence must mean they agree with me. Sometimes we call it Minnesota nice, which I call passive aggressive, but that's a whole nother training too. But the silent majority is really interesting because the 22s believe within themselves that if I don't say anything, that's okay. But I'm on the board of Alexandra House, which is a battered women's shelter in Blaine. And so we have this way that we talk on the board. Anyone on a board or been a part of some kind of civic organization or that uses Robert's Rules of Order, right? So in Robert's Rules of Order, they talk funny, and part of it I think is to keep certain people out, but that's a whole other conversation too. So in Robert's Rules of Order, when we're going to make a decision, the chair of the board says, I am going to call the question. That means that they're going to make the decision. And they want to know how you're going to vote on this, right? And so there are 4 ways in which you can respond to the question. The first way is if you agree or you like it, you think it's the best thing you've ever heard in your life, you say what? Aye. You say, aye, yay, I agree. That's what you say. If you think this idea is the dumbest thing you've ever heard in your life, and you have no part of it, what do you say? Nay. You say nay. No, I don't agree. Now, if you have some kind of conflict of interest or conflict of conscience, and you can't be a part of any of this stuff, what do you say to the secretary? You say, Madam Secretary, Sir Secretary, please write in the minutes that I abstain. I can't be a part of this. Write it down. What's the 4th way, using Robert's Rules of Order, that you are able to make a decision in a group? You say nothing. And when you say nothing, what does that say to the group? You've had a chance to say, yes, I agree. You've had a chance to say, no, I don't agree. You've had a chance to say, please strike me from the record on this. So what does it say to the group? It says, whatever we decide, you're down with. Whatever you decide, as a group, I'll support. A lot of times, and I don't know how many folks work with teens because, sometimes teens their logic just gets twisted, right? I had a student who, I tried to keep under my wing as much as possible, and she gets pregnant. And I asked her, I said, how did you get pregnant? And she was like, well, first. And I was like, no, I don't need to know that. I'm like, why are you pregnant? And she told me that one of the dumbest things, and I slapped her, just gave her a little love tap. She said, well, we decided not to use contraceptives. Because we just thought, it was just not a decision. We just didn't make a decision. And I was like, dummy, not making a decision is making a decision, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more about these 22 and what we can do. One of the things that's important is to understand how you see the world and how important that is. All right? So on your handout, if you can go to we only have a little bit of time left, right? We got about 20 minutes, is that right? Cool. Is this helpful? Yes. Okay, cool. So there's a blue circle there, and what I'd like for you to do is to, some of us have done this exercise before, so just roll with me. But what I'd like for you to do, in that circle, that is the circle of all human knowledge. Okay, that's pretty melodramatic. Let's say that's the pie of all human knowledge. What I'd like for you to do is to cut yourself a piece of pie the size of what you know of everything that there is to know. All right? So cut yourself a piece of pie the size of what you know of everything there is to know.